From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Atmospheric Scientist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, April 7th, 2025. A few things to talk about this week, maybe some higher impact weather next week. We've got colder temperatures in the east right now, temperatures 15 to 20 degrees below zero right now as we get started here on Monday, April 7th. We have a midweek disturbance bringing some light precipitation through the region with a potential bigger storm system here April 13th and 14th. Higher impacts possible here across parts of southern Saskatchewan into central and southern Manitoba. As we get the forecast started here on April 7th, we've got kind of a break in the pattern right now. We've seen extensive storminess across portions of the central and southern U.S., a lot of severe weather and flooding across this region with really relentless southwest flow here. You might have just heard my sump pump running here in Champaign, Illinois. We kind of got in on the heavy rain here as well over the last 7 days or so. And a big trough here across the Pacific Ocean. In between that, we have higher atmospheric pressure, quieter conditions. You see the northerly flow here across the prairie. That is ushering in those colder temperatures. You see the big area of purple shaded colors here. That is very cold air being dragged in on the backside of this big high impact storm system. So this kind of spells out the pattern the next few weeks. Again, we see the influence of higher pressure allowing warmer temperatures to build in across the prairie at times. But as we get these bigger high impact late winter, early spring storm systems, they have the ability to drag some of this colder air south on the backside there. So on the west side of the prairie, we are feeling the influence of the ridge of high pressure and the storm to the west with southerly flow, warmer conditions, and then across the east, feeling the impacts of the colder temperatures and the departing storm system in the east. The radar is clear this morning, again, with high pressure across the region. We have some snow in the Great Lakes, parts of Ontario. You can also find some precipitation as you head further west into the mountains of British Columbia. Maybe some very, very light showers across portions of north central Alberta this morning. And then looking at those temperatures, again, bit of a bigger shot here. Those temperatures anywhere from 3 to 6 degrees across much of western, central, and southern Alberta. And then you can find temperatures as cold as 15 below zero across central and southern portions of Manitoba. Precipitation forecast over the next several days is going to be pretty quiet other than our midweek storm, which brings just some corridors of light precipitation. We'll take it through your day on Monday. This is now your Tuesday. Some light rain spreading into Alberta, portions of Edmonton, likely seeing some light rain overnight. And then we get into Tuesday morning and the area of low pressure kind of moves in across Alberta and Saskatchewan. The bigger influence going to be some cloud cover here, but some patchy showers. Those become a bit heavier as we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday as the storm gets a little bit further east. Again, just very light off and on rain, maybe a mix of wintry precipitation at times in some areas here as we get this system out of here. To be quiet again as we get into Thursday and Friday with the lull in the pattern until we get to the end of the weekend. So total precipitation by type through Thursday. So this is your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday precipitation forecast. Again, pretty light. Folks who do see it are going to see very light totals here. We're talking about, 5 to 10 millimeters of precipitation and then just a trace of some snowfall in some areas as well. Again, this is the pattern as we get started here. Departing area of low pressure, departing, corridor of fast southwesterly flow across the central and eastern U.S. with that trough over the Hudson Bay. That's bringing the colder air south across eastern portions of the prairie. And then you see the trough across the Pacific, the big ridge overhead in Alberta. Again, warmer and drier conditions for the most part to get the week started. We'll animate this, taking it through the next several days. No major changes for us here in the prairie. You see this fast flow coming in south of the region. That's going to kind of pinch off the ridge to the north here. Again, bringing us that chance of some light precipitation across the region. We don't really get a big area of low pressure that's really well defined from this one. The ridge rebuilds as we get into the late part of the week here, Thursday and Friday, so quiet conditions kind of resuming there. And then this is as we get into the end of the weekend, early next week. You see this trough developing here. This could spawn an area of low pressure again right along the U.S.-Canada border as we get into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, April 13th, 14th, and 15th. Again, you see the rebuilding ridge here across the western U.S., western North America, at times allowing areas of low pressure to ride over the top of it or kind of sneak in below it. But this ridge, kind of one of the bigger players here as we head through the early part of the spring. The strength and the intensity there, how big does it get? Are we going to kind of shut the precipitation down, allowing for warmer, drier conditions to persist, or are we going to keep letting these areas of low pressure sneak across the region. We'll continue to watch this closely. Again, mild temperatures in general over the next 14 days, but we do have the opportunity for some shots of cold air, especially next week as we get that next area of low pressure, the one that could bring some heavier snow, heavier precipitation as we get into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week to portions of the Prairie. So we'll look at the European AI forecast system precipitation forecast over the next 10 days. Again, here's your very light precipitation in the near term. This is an old animation, so let's actually jump over to the next one here where I've got a side-by-side showing you the Monday, April 14th storm system, some of the differences here. This is the European deterministic model on the left with the higher impact storm system across portions of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and then the European AI forecast system with a little bit further south solution here. The GFS, I'll show that as well. A little bit further north, a bigger high impact storm system here across portions of southern Manitoba. This is really, remarkable agreement as we talk about a forecast 7 days out there. So again, some subtle differences, but both the European deterministic AI and the GFS deterministic all have this storm system existing in a relatively the same spot at the same time here as we get into, again, next Monday, April 14th. So near-term total precipitation, this is kind of just using the AI forecast system, so kind of a broad, smoothed out version here. And again, just kind of showing the main theme here is 2 to 5 millimeters of precipitation in general in areas that do see it, maybe 5 to 10 on the high end here, with the system that primarily comes in here Wednesday and Thursday midweek. Quiet conditions to start the week, quiet conditions to finish the week. As we get into next week, April 14th through the 21st, we have the potential for one or more high-impact storm systems to bring more in the way of beneficial precipitation back to the region. So we'll finish up then with a look at temperatures. I do have some new seasonal forecast data just came in literally yesterday. So temperature forecasting and precipitation forecast for April, May, and June is what I'm showing you here. You see the influence of that ridge, warmer conditions across western North America, and then drier conditions across that region as well. I want to take some time to kind of sort through this and look at some of the additional seasonal data that will come in over the next week or so to understand really what the picture is that we're getting here for April, May, and June. There is some concern about heat and drought across western North America. That does kind of include the Prairie here, but I've got some questions that need to be answered here before I kind of turn that concern level up. So, just looking at it broadly, there's certainly some concerns there, but again, just let me take a week here or so to kind of look at this one and understand what the impact of this ridge is going to be as we head into the growing season. So your temperatures here, typical seasonal volatility, 18 for the high today in Calgary. You'll drop down to a high of 12 tomorrow, back up to 18 on Friday, and then back down to cooler temperatures as we go through the weekend into early next week. That's going to be the theme in most cities here. Edmonton, again, rather mild today. You'll see temperatures generally in the mild range, the middle teens for much of this week, a bit cooler next week. Regina, you're colder to get the week started. We'll see that warm up as we head into the weekend. Shot of colder air as we head into next week. Similar look here in Saskatoon and then Winnipeg as well. Again, you're on the colder side today, a high of 0. You'll get that high of 18 as we get into the weekend, but a shot of colder air likely follows what could be a higher impact storm system as we get to the end of the weekend, early next week, April 13th, 14th, and 15th. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again next Monday, April 14th.